Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In this video we will model the hood of the Messerschmitt KR200. Let's get started. It's a pretty difficult model, so we'll have to approach it a couple different ways. So let's hide what we have here. I'm going to hide the in progress stuff and show the curves. I have these curves already made, but I'll show you quickly how I made them. So from the last video we made curves for the fender, so you can use the same curves to continue the car. So you make a curve for the front of the hood like this, and if we show the image planes, so this is the curve to match the hood, and then we have a curve this way. Now I have two curves here because one curve is for the shape of the hood. So basically you have to kind of imagine how to make this hood if it didn't have the headlight, and then you have to make the headlight and what the curve for the headlight would be. So what you do is you have to imagine the lines going from the side panels into here, and then from here it needs to continue into this shape. Once you make your image planes, if you want to move them around and look at them, you hold the backslash. Backslash is underneath the backspace. So you can see as I'm holding backslash I can move around like this. And the thing that I noticed is a lot of them have this sharp line here, which I wasn't super happy with. I wanted more a smoother line. First thing is we need to create this curve so that it ends there. So like in my previous video, go from the side, select curve point, click and drag, and drop it like there. Then we can go into curves and detach. And then I'm going to select both of these, press F9. That'll take me into vertex selection. Grab these and hold B, snap them there. Now you can see sometimes it'll create a pinch there. If you don't want to do that, you can instead grab these curves and snap them. You have to make sure the curves are connected, otherwise the operations that we do will not work, like the bi-rail. Delete that, we don't need it. Now because we have the original curves, I don't have to keep that curve, so I'll just delete it, don't need it. And now the next thing we need to do is we need to match the number of divisions on this curve with this one. Now the reason I like to do this is because the distance from this edit point to this one could be different than from this one to this one. So even though we have different edit point numbers and you can still do a bi-rail, it can sometimes get skewed if you don't have even distribution. We can see that here the distribution is even. I'm not sure about this one because I cut this curve, this one I made. So to do this we need to rebuild the curve. So you go to curves, open the options here, and we're going to rebuild it. Now the way I'm showing the edit points on this curve is if you go to display, NURBS, and you can turn on edit points. So this basically shows you visually exactly how many divisions a curve has without having you go into the components of the curve. So I like to do that when I'm working so that I can just compare if I'm doing lofts and stuff. So click edit points, now you can see it. Turn that off, and there's a kind of a trick to using rebuild curve, because let's say I set it to 2 and hit apply. Now you can see it kind of looks the same, but if you notice that when I do it the curve changes shape. But how do you know how much shape it changes? You don't really, unless you click keep original. When you do this you can then see the difference in the curve. So I'm going to undo that. I want to set it to, I have 1, 2, 3. I think I need 3 or 4. Undo, I need 4. Apply. Oops. Okay, so if we go to edit points, you can see 1, 2, 3. Right, and we have 1, 2, 3 there. So you can see that this curve actually is pretty close. Even if it's not perfect, it's fine, so I'll keep it. So I'm going to undo again. I'm going to turn off keep original and then hit apply. When you hit apply without keep original, it builds the same curve, and your edit points display stay on, and you only have one curve instead of two. So I use keep original until I kind of fine tune it, and when I'm ready to do the final, I'll turn keep original off. So now we can test this by going to surfaces and clicking loft, and you can see we have pretty good distribution. It's not favoring one side in any way, so I'm going to delete that. And now I'm going to do a bi-rail. So I'm going to go to surfaces, bi-rail, and this is a bi-rail 2 because we have two profile curves or rail curves, profile curves, I don't know. Okay, settings same as before. We want to do polygons, quads, general, but first, this is if I'm making the final shape. I am not. I'm going to use NURBS, and I'll show you why in a second. I'm going to hit apply. It's going to tell me to select two profile curves, 1, 2, then 1 and 2 for rails. All right, that looks pretty good. Our surface is flipped. Now we can reverse direction if we want, or we can just turn on two-sided lighting in the meantime while we're still working. And if we compare it to our original, where is it? Should be under panels. You can see it's a pretty good match, but in the front, see how it kind of goes in. Now, if you didn't have the original curve to actually work with, you wouldn't even know that it's not the same. But since I have it, I can compare. But the reason I'm showing you this is because if you want to fine-tune this shape with this curve here, it's very easy. And the reason I made my bi-rail into NURBS is because I can do this. I'm going to right-click on the NURBS surface and click isoparm. This will let me select the isoparm in the middle, like this, or I can select all of those. And I can go to curves and click duplicate surface curves. If I delete the NURBS surface, I will have a curve right down the middle, and if you look at its edit points, it's exactly the same as this. So I can go to display, NURBS, edit points. I can see this curve. Now what I can do with this curve is I can adjust it. I can go into here, into control vertex, then I can move these around and change the shape how I like it. Now another way I can do it, if I don't want to use because if I try and move these control vertices, see there's a lot of control vertices, it's kind of hard to make it nice and perfect. So instead I'm going to use a lattice. Once I create this lattice, the lattice is not lined up in the curve direction. You can see how it's a big box around it, but what you can do when that happens is you can select this one side lattice points like this. Now make sure your lattice is set to S, T, and U divisions to 2, 2, and 2, and then the local influences to 30, 30, 30. And I need to figure out how I'm going to bend it. So I want to add just a single edit point in the middle. So I'm going to add an edit point this way. That should be good. Now if I select lattice, these lattice points here, I can select the X direction, hold V, and middle click and drag until it snaps right there. And then select this one, hold V, and snap there. It basically aligns the curve in a straight line with just a couple lattice points to work with. And then I can select, let's say, just this lattice point and move it in this direction. We can see how I can adjust it. I don't want to move this one because I have tangency across the center here, meaning that if I move this, I create like an M shape. Don't want that. So, but if I move this one, it's hard. I'll need to move it a lot to create to break the tangency. So if I just move it a little bit, I can try and get a smoother curve here. I'm going to line it up like this. I can zoom in, just kind of line this up. like that. Select the curve, clear history, Birel 3. We can change the option in a second, but hit apply. 1, 2, 3. Enter 1, 2. Hide this. Hit apply again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay. Unhide this one. So now we have 2 here, but you'll notice that if I select both of these U numbers and drag them, see how they don't line up exactly? But if I set this to per span number of isoforms, like this, and then reduce that, you see how they're actually matching exactly, because it's going between the edit points. So we can do it like this, then select this one, set it to the same. See, that looks pretty good. These are matching perfectly over here, so we might not even need the second one. I just wanted to see how it's working here, and that looks pretty good. Alright, so we'll hide it for now. And this shape looks good. Soften edges. So sometimes this can happen when you're using the per number of isoforms. That's alright. All you have to do to fix this is just click merge vertices. It's under edit mesh. Right? Yeah, merge. And I made this headlight curves here. They're super simple. Just a very simple curve from here to here to here, just a circle, and then I use the lattice to bend it into shape to match there. So if I just duplicate them out, they're just simple circles. You can see we have that. Unhide this. And then if I select from here to here to here, deselect that, we can do a very simple loft. There. I want the loft to go straight to polygons, so set this to polygons, hit apply. I'm going to turn wireframe on so I can see it. And I want to try and match the curves here as best I can. I also want to have an even, I want to have a vertical and horizontal split here. So at 13, that gives us 12 divisions. That should be fine. And then we need to get a couple divisions this way. Now here's the thing. These divisions don't line up exactly, because you can see how we have. So I'm going to just get rough with it like this. That should be good enough. Okay, clear history and all of that. Alright, and now we need to try and match here. Now one thing that you'll notice is that this is going into the headlight. So this is where we'll need this again. So I'm going to do another loft. And sometimes you have to do it and undo it a couple times until you get it right. I'm going to set this one actually to NURBS again. And hit apply. 1, 2, 3. Enter. 1, 2. There. And I need to duplicate this and this curve. So you want to make sure you're not clicking and dragging. Instead, on the curve itself, you want to click on the outside and drag a selection over it. Curves, duplicate surface curves, delete this. Okay, let's see. Display, edit points. And now we will do another birail polygons and hit apply. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one. Hit enter, and then 1 and 2. So that's the new shape. I'm going to set this to isoparm on the bottom and there. There, that's good. Like that. And now this curve here we can adjust. I'm going to select edit points and see what happens if I move this edit point down. And then this vertex. That looks pretty good. We can always look at the reference. Alright, so see how this curve kind of goes in a little bit from the top view. I'm just gonna look at that and just kind of pull that out like this. Okay, when I'm happy with it, Shift Alt D, clear history, and I'm gonna hide all of these curves because they're kind of in the way. So just group it and hide the group. Then I want to just go from the top view and just kind of visually adjust these. So I'm just gonna try and make these curves smoother. Usually I find if I do that, things just start to kind of fall into place. I'm going to select a lattice around here on this half. I'm going to select these vertices and drop a lattice here. Then I can select these points here and drag them out and try and meet this vertex here. Now another trick you can do here is if you have these two lattice points selected, with the move tool selected, press W, hold Control Shift, right click, and then you can make sure keep spacing is on. Then hold D and V and middle drag the pivot to this vertex here. Then if you hold V, you can snap it right to that point. Let's see. And before we clear history, also we just want to kind of move this down a little bit, maybe like this. Yeah. Clear history now. Select this curve, drop a lattice on that. Same thing here. Find that corner, hold D and V, snap it there, and then snap that there. See, and that's going to snap it to this surface. And then same here. So now what I want to do is I want to boolean these together. That's just gonna save me a little time cleaning up or trying to match the curves. So I'm going to select this edge loop here. I'm going to extrude it out like this. Just press W and just move it out. And then I'm going to select just these edges here and then extrude them and just move them down so that there's no edges are going through the surface. Basically, you don't want any open edges going through the surface when you're doing a boolean. Just makes life a little easier. Select both of these, go to mesh, boolean, union. I think I know why this is happening. Basically, when I extruded this edge, I went down. I actually should go up this is what we want. Let's try this again. Now the reason I need to go up instead of down is because this surface needs to connect with this one, and when I went down it was creating this a very sharp corner, which Maya couldn't figure out. So mesh, union. Let's change the selection order. See how this headlight is white? I'm going to change the selection order so that the headlight is green, and try that again. Then let's change the, there you go. And then once you change the operation, you will sometimes get what you need. I can then select the extra faces here, hit delete, and then I just like to click merge vertices just to make sure everything else is cleaned up. Now, so I press 3 to kind of preview what's going on here. So one thing I see is that there's this extra face here. I'm going to delete it and delete that one. When you see it, when you press 3, it's much easier to see what's going on. So if I zoom in real close, I can delete that and then select these vertices here, turn keep spacing off, hold V, snap them there, and click merge again. Now you can see it's nice and clean. We need to clean this up, not a big deal. The way I'm going to do this is it's nothing fancy. I'm literally just going to cut across. So I'm going to line this up until this line looks straight, and then go from here to there. That's an easy way to do it. Like that. So I'm going to assign a new material, blend, and make it a little dark, but increase the speck color and drop the eccentricity a bit. What that's going to do, it's going to make it super shiny, so we can see how well the fall off is happening here. So let's actually increase that, the eccentricity, that way we can see happening here. Now I accidentally deleted these vertices, but we have the curves, so it's an easy way to get it back. This happens to me all the time because I forget there's a vertex there and I just select everything and delete it. Just add a vertex, hold V, and snap it to the back to the curves. This face here I'm not too thrilled about. Maybe I'll try and fix it later, but it doesn't seem to be causing any issues. The final test is want to make sure we snap the pivot to the center here. Control D, put -1 in X, select both, combine, merge vertices, soften edges, press 3. This didn't merge, so if we go back to the merge under inputs here, we can just click and drag until hold control and middle click and drag. So basically if you hold control, you go at second decimal point. If you don't and you do that, you'll actually just be going by the first decimal point, and you can see things here start to combine. So that's why I hold control and do it. You can also just type in a number here. Make sure nothing else that we don't want merged is merged. That looks good. If you go to edge, select the edge in the middle, hold Control Shift, right click, go to symmetry and turn on topology. This will create topology symmetry. We can then double click the headlights here and the edge loops on the end. Click extrude, press R, and then scale into the center like that. Press 3. There you go. If you want to sharpen the bevel here, I'm going to set this to relative. Autocomplete is on. Click. And then I'm just going to scale it tiny bit. That's too much. Let's go from the side here. I'm going to press plus a couple times. It's going to increase my manipulator. And then I'm just trying to make this curve here like that. And then I'm going to add an extra edge loop. Set it to multiple. 1, autocomplete on. Drop 1 here. Press minus. Put the manipulator back where it was. Press 3 and preview. Alright, looks pretty good. Pretty happy with it. And we can move on to the next panel. In the next episode, we're going to make the rear panel. This one was pretty difficult compared to the front. I think it's actually more challenging. So that's going to be fun as well. So stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.